This morning we're starting on our 5-week road trip from our home here in Hoedspruit in the garden route, and we're heading all the way up to the north of South Africa to Hoedspruit, which is on the border of the Kruger Park, and then we're going to work our way down a journey that's going to take us about 5 weeks. And my first dilemma is to get all this into here. There you go, actually pretty easy. Done. We're staying as guests of Africamps for the duration of this trip. Africamps are the pioneers of glamping in South Africa. They have 11 camps from Hoedspruit all the way down to the Western Cape. We'll be traveling north to south, but before we do that, we've got to make the 1,600 kilometer journey from home to Hoedspruit. Africamps at Hoedspruit is about 35 kilometers from Open Gate entrance to the Kruger Park, and there are some wonderful private game reserves nearby as well. The guys on the reception can organize game drives, and you can even end it off with an amazing dinner at one of the 5-star lodges as well. Camp is managed and owned by Monica and Loki Roo, and it's been in the family for many years. The tents in Africamps are just awesomely equipped. I mean, this is doing camping the way it should be done. If you, like us, and you've got all your camping gear, you can leave it all at home because it's got everything. It's got aircon, it's got queen size bed, it's got a shower with amazing pressure. The kids, I mean, they're gonna love the double bunk beds. Very spacious, very comfortable, everything you need for an awesome holiday. It doesn't matter where you go in the Africamps family, the tents are going to be the same, it's just the surroundings that are different. These wood-fired hot tubs are another fantastic innovation. Not all the camps have the hot tubs. I'll put a list of those that do in the description, but bear in mind that they are adding them all the time, so keep up to date with the Africamps website, and I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Our next camp is at Mackers in Hazyview. There is a quick way, but we took the panorama route, which takes you past places like this. I can highly recommend it. It's a lot more interesting than the direct route. Mackers is owned by Ryan and Michelle McCain, the Mackers, who hail from Gauteng. They've been here 5 or 6 years. When they moved here, down by the river was just the riverbank with a bit of flat land, and they used to come down and camp on their own, and then friends would come and friends of friends. And eventually they had a small business, and it came to pass that they joined forces with Africamps. And this is what we have here today, and I for one am so glad that they did. Michelle will gladly put together a braai or a breakfast basket for you with farm fresh goodies, and the Honesty shop is available for essentials as well. The Fabini entrance to the Kruger National Park is about 30 minutes drive from Mackers, so it makes an ideal spot as a base for exploring the park on day trips. We're off on the way to our third Africamps of the journey. It's White Elephant Safaris, which is not on the banks of, but overlooking Lake Jozini in northern KwaZulu Natal. Been quite a journey. Should be about 4 hours, but it's taken us about 6, with a lot of traffic, animals in the road and so on. But this is what it's all about. This is why we do it. Here we are, back in the bush on our way down to the camp. During our research, there were some people complaining about the access road, but we didn't find it too bad at all. But I wouldn't bring the Ferrari, I'd leave that at home.
Had a few kids, bought a new house, promised you heaven, but it never.
At the time of our visit, White Elephant was the most recent Africamps. There are 12 tents, and you can see your neighbors, but there's no sense of a lack of privacy. They're widely spaced and all with amazing views over Lake Jazini and the mountains of Swaziland, now called Eswatini, in the distance.
Bought a new house, promised you heaven, but it never did work out. Got a new job and moved uptown. I bought you everything, you never questioned why.
Camp is owned by veterinary surgeon Heinz Kors and his wife Debbie, and it's managed by the lovely Lorraine, and you won't find a more helpful, knowledgeable, friendly person. It's quite remote. The closest town is Pongola, which is 50 kilometers away, much of it along a gravel road. There is an on-site shop though, where you can get wood, firelighters, water, and real basic essentials.
All this time I waited for a season where everything felt right. All the different phases in the
My name is Cosmos. I'm the one who's going to be taking you for a boat cruise along the river here. This main strip is the Pongola River, where we normally do our boat cruise.
my best kept secret is I never loved you quite enough. There in the moment, in my white dress, an overwhelming second of regret.
Next up, Gowan Valley in the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands, just outside the little village of Howick in the Midlands Meander. Farm is owned by Brett and Deanne Bauer. We were very ably helped by the lovely Taryn. It's not a large camp. There are only 5 tents, but wow, that view. I mean, just look at that.
Driving on a freeway with no exit signs, losing control and speeding faster than light. All this time I waited for a season where everything felt right. And all the different phases and the reasons to make it all worthwhile. My best kept secret is I never loved you quite enough. All this time I waited for a season where everything felt right. All the different phases and the reasons to make it all worthwhile.
Ingwe at Plettenberg Bay is the first Africamps that we visited in the Western Cape. I'm not going to lie, I didn't have high hopes of Plettenberg Bay. It's not a favorite place of mine, but just the sheer beauty of this place is just out of this world. It's unbelievable. Sandwiched between the N2 highway on the one side and the ocean on the other, you'll find this hidden valley. It's owned by the Edwards family. Unfortunately, we didn't meet them. And that seems to be a Western Cape thing, because we didn't meet any of the owners in the Western Cape. In the northern parts of the country, we met all the owners and chatted to them, and it was really rewarding for us, and I hope for them. I think we're all losers when we cut off human contact and interaction with people that we don't know. I think we all have something to offer one another.
It all worthwhile. My best kept secret. My best kept secret is I never loved you quite enough.
There's obviously lots to do in Plet and lots of restaurants. We did the Robberg Peninsula hiking trail, which I can highly recommend. It's not very strenuous and the views are out of this world.
In the crowd, but I only see your face in all the lights. And as the bass keep pounding on me, baby, I really wanna make you mine. I don't really care about happy ever after. Something about you gives me hope.
If you want a spot for lunch, I can recommend Enrico on the beach at Kerbumstrand. Although you probably got a book, it gets very busy. It's not far from Africamps. They've got outstanding food, awesome views, and a really good vibe.
Something about you, yeah. When the sun goes down and the night sky's falling, do you believe in one-time lovers? 'Cause deep inside of my wildest dreams, you'll be by my side. When the sun goes
Oakhurst is in the mountains behind Wilderness, close to the small village of Hookville. It's pretty much in the center of the garden route, so it's in a really good position. It's a working dairy farm. It's actually quite large. It's about 640 hectares. And you can do a tour of the dairy if you want to, just arrange it with the guys at the reception. It's owned by Jake and Claire Crowther, who are the 6th generation of owners of the farm. It's been in the family for over 180 years. There's lots to do, apart from visiting the dairy, fishing in the dam for bass. There's walks in the forest, and there's mountain bike trails, there's an archery, there's a swimming pool. So there's absolutely plenty to keep you entertained on the farm. And in the surrounding areas also got loads and loads of stuff to do. I can really recommend doing a walk through the forest. It's a very easy walk to the big tree in Woodville Forest. And after that, if you want to go for lunch, there's some really nice little restaurants in Wilderness Village, which is not far away.
and as the ocean is surrounding me, baby, I'm sure we lost track of time. I don't really care about love. I don't really care about happy ever afters. Something about you gives me hope. Something about you.
Oudtshoorn's main claim to fame is the ostrich industry. In the early part of the 20th century, ostrich feathers were a must-have accessory in the salons of Europe. Of course, that's no longer the case. But the ostrich industry, as along with tourism, is still very, very important to the local economy. This was in fact the first Africamps to be established in South Africa back in 2015. The farm is owned by two families, the De Jagers and the Schoemans, and it's huge. It's about 25,000 hectares. And they've got a very diversified range of farming. Ostriches, they farm onion seeds, they farm carrot seeds, they farm tobacco. So Africamps is a part of it, but not all of it.
The night sky's falling. Do you believe in one-time lovers? 'Cause deep inside of my wildest dreams, you'll be by my side.
There's a very cool entertainment area around the pool. We were there during the week and out of season, but I think during the holidays it could get quite lively.
Every 2 days.
See the dot over there? Yeah. I see in Braille.
There's so much to do around Oudtshoorn, whether it's ostrich farms or the wildlife park. You can even go see the Big Five, not on this farm, but on neighboring farms. And then, of course, there's the world-famous Kango Caves. There's some great wines come out of this area, go wine tasting. And there's some really good shopping and some excellent restaurants in and around town. Do happen to find yourself in Oudtshoorn, Smitswinkel farm store. So different. Pat Busch Nature Reserve is about 16 kilometers outside the town of Robertson. It's tucked away in an incredibly beautiful valley. If you want to get away from it and just really experience nature and the silence of the mountains, this is the place to do it. There's a lot to do in and around Robertson, some excellent restaurants in town, and it's a wine growing area of note, so there's plenty for the wine lover. We decided just to stay on the reserve. We didn't do any of the activities around, we just enjoyed the peace and the quiet and nature. We did some hiking, we did some fishing, we bride, and just totally soaked up the solitude and the mountains.
Get some sun, baby, it's time to go. All we need to put on is the radio. I can feel the heat is rising, and that beat is hypnotizing. Oh, no, we run the show. Let's get louder, come on, lose control. Got to live or we get too old. Come on, shine, shine a little tonight. Let's get louder, come on, lose control. Ain't no limit when we go for gold. We can shine, shine a little tonight.
Tucked away in a stunningly beautiful valley between the Bainskloof Mountains and the town of Wellington is a boutique wine estate, Doolhof. It's owned by two business partners, Johan and Angelo, who have been making wines here since 2010. It's also the closest Africamps to Cape Town, so super convenient for a weekend getaway or even for a night. It's quite small, only 6 tents, and the tents are much closer together than at the other camps. But having said that, there's no sense of a lack of privacy. To do, there's fly fishing in the river. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my fly fishing gear. There's walks through the vineyard and along the river. I'm no wine buffin, but I really enjoyed the Doolhof wines. And then the wine tasting venue is outstandingly beautiful.
Let's hit the club, time to make a move. We got it late.
I would say the Sauvignon Blanc and the Pinotage get my vote.
Is rising, and that beat is hypnotizing. No, we run the show. Let's get louder, come on, lose control. Get to live or we get too old. Come on.
Stanford is roughly halfway between Hermanus and Gansbaai, and Gansbaai is the self-proclaimed white shark diving capital of the world. Great white sharks are not as abundant in the area as they were. Apparently orcas have moved in and chased them away. But there are still tours going, and there's also boat-based whale watching that operates from the harbour in Kam'Bati. So while there's an Africamps and the tents, there's also a really nice restaurant, the tasting room. They do lunches. Getting the lamb souvlaki and the vegan
falafel. It looks good.
Peter and Jamie Kastner are the owners of Africamps at Stanford Hills, which is located in a beautiful, beautiful area just at the foot of the Klein River Mountains, about midway between Hermanus and Kam'Bati. There are 5 tents overlooking the farm dam, and at the time of our visit there were 3 under construction. Main products of the farm are wine. They have their own wine labels, 6 wine labels. The wines are mostly exported, and they also grow proteas. And this is one of the few pet-friendly Africamps, so you can take your dog along as long as it's well behaved. And this is another one of the camps which is quite close to Cape Town. It's just over an hour's drive, so an ideal spot for a weekend getaway. Kam'Bati is quite a large farm in the Southern Cape, not too far from the town of Swellendam. The farm was started in 1958 by Bati Badenhorst, hence the name Kam'Bati. These days the farm is run by Bati's successors, Jaco and Francois Badenhorst. Very family focused, with water slides, pools, and quite a cool entertainment area. And apart from the Africamps tents, there are also traditional chalets, a honeymoon pod, and traditional camping sites along the riverbank with electricity, water, and very clean, well-maintained ablutions. Well, that's it. Our road trip is over. Thank you so much to every single person at Africamps. It really has been the trip of a lifetime.